Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Well, hello. How are you doing? Good morning, my friends. Welcome to the Michael Dukes Show, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator, and live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com, where you'll find links to the audio-only stream, the podcast, and the simulcast links to our social media sites as well. Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, where we simulcast the radio show every day on the internet, because why not, right? Because why not? It's 6 o'clock club time, and you guys can all pat yourselves on the back for participating and being here at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's the club where the points don't count and the rules are made up. You just got bragging rights. You got bragging rights for being part of it this morning. We appreciate you coming on board and joining us. Today on the program, in hour one, at the end of hour one, we're going to be joined by Chris Story, who was kind enough to give us his normal spot on Tuesdays. Yesterday, we had a chance to talk with Bernadette Wilson, who's a candidate for governor. We had her for the whole hour, and so we had to inelegantly bump Chris Story off of his normal time slot there at the end of Tuesdays, and so he was kind enough to agree to come on board for hour one this morning, a little bit earlier, but he was up already. I mean, who are we kidding? The guy gets up at like 4 o'clock in the morning because he's an animal, and he's just loaded with positivity. He can't sleep. He's so full of positivity. So we're going to be talking with him here at the end of this hour. First part of the hour here, we got some headlines and other things to go over. And then in hour two, we're going to be joined by the House Minority Leader, Delana Johnson, who's going to come in and give us a state of the state from her perspective. With all the things that are happening, I can't imagine that. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what went on, what's going on down in the legislature, which we're going to go over some of that stuff here in just a moment. Before we get to that, I guess we'll get to the the weather report. That winter storm warning has been canceled for Fairbanks. So now it's everybody up there is reporting 20 below, 21 below up in Fairbanks. No snow, which apparently everybody's happy about. I kept seeing one of my buddies put a video up of him clearing the snow off the edge of his roof and him getting crushed. Not literally, but he said he'd done big chunks of the roof already, and he did that final chunk on the back of the house, and the snow slid off and absolutely slammed him into the ground. He was buried underneath of it all. He said he walked away a little sore, but lots of snow in Fairbanks, but no more winter storm warning for Fairbanks. That high wind advisory is still in effect, high wind warning for the Seward area. 30 to 50, gusts up to 65. Some areas expecting 75. Huge wind chills down to 20 below, and that's supposed to go from 6 p.m. I guess this is from yesterday. So it's going to go through today to 6 p.m. tomorrow with all those high winds. And down in Kodiak, for those of you who are listening down on the Emerald Isle, 35 to 50 mile an hour winds, gusts up to 75, wind chills dropping as low as 15 below zero as well. Kenai Peninsula, again, all those wind gusts. And the Matsu, the Matsu. Dangerously cold winds, as low as 20 below, all along the coast, including Whittier. Dangerous cold wind chills, 40 to 50 below in the Copper River Basin and northern Susitna, upper Matsu, and more. And then in the southeast Fairbanks, Tanana Valley, wind chills as cold as 60 below expected. So it's going to be chilly burr. That's what it's all about as far as weather goes. Current temperature outside the old studios here is 10 degrees, 2 degrees in Fairbanks or in Anchorage, and 20 below up in Fairbanks. No report yet as to what it looks like in the Matsu, but I imagine it's pretty cold. So anyway, winter is not quite done with us yet. Just deal with it. It's Alaska. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? All right. So some of the headlines I want to hit on here, 2 degrees in Wasilla Fishhook. So thank you, Brian, for that weather report. A couple things that I want to get into. I do want to talk a little bit about the education funding, because that's going to be, it's going to heat up as part of the discussion in the legislature. How do I know? Because they're pushing hard on it, and the Anchorage School Board just voted to close 3 schools last night amid a $90 million deficit. The Matsu Borough just voted to close 2 of their schools, 3 of their schools, 2 that they have announced, and a third that they finally named the 3rd school. Yesterday it was 3, and now now they're going to close Larson, Meadow Lakes, and Glacier View School. All 3 of the schools are going to be closed amid a $23 million shortfall. So this is going to be a continuing problem. Oh, and on top of it all, the Matsu school bus drivers are going to strike on top of everything else. You just can't make this stuff up, man. You just cannot make this stuff up. It's just like one hit after another. But let's start off with the Anchorage lawyer. That's kind of like the Lincoln lawyer, only not as, right? The Anchorage lawyer, Anchorage Democrat, Senator Matt Clayman, also candidate for governor, who has now put in a resolution in the Senate. Now, this is a resolution that he has put in already once before. He put this in back in, was it 2023, 2024? Matt Clayman says the governor has too much power, and he is putting this resolution on the ballot to create a constitutional amendment to lower the override vote threshold on the governor's vetoes. So if the governor vetoes a bill like the school funding bill, which was here this last one, it would lower the override threshold from 3/4 of the legislature to merely 2/3. So I don't know if it's a supermajority and an ultramajority. I don't know what you would even call that, but 2/3 from 3/4 vote. And of course, the reason that they say that is this was made for back in the day. This is always the argument. Back in the day when the framers of the Alaska Constitution, they did it because, they wanted to give the governor a lot of power and everything else. But during the drafting of the Constitution, that was then, and this is now. Today, he said, Alaska is older. Its economy has grown and public participation has increased. This is straight from the ADN article by Mary Kanagi. But again, today, Alaska is older. Its economy has grown. The public economy, not the private economy, but the public economy. And public participation has increased. because of all the special interests who are now voting themselves largesse from the Treasury. So yeah, that's a thing, right? And he said, quote, "This amendment returns more power to all Alaskans and their elected representatives and senators, and it will establish a better balance between the governor and the legislature." Now, those who would oppose this have said this is like the last line of defense as far as governmental spending. This is the only thing that is holding the line, the governor's power of the veto. I mean, the governor is in the state of Alaska is one of the strongest administrators, one of the strongest governors in the country. There was a lot of reasons for that, but again, the biggest reason to keep it the way it is that it's the only way that any spending has really been controlled in this state. I mean, go back the last 25 years. Just the last 25 years, since 2001. And what have you seen? Republicans and Democrats just spending willy-nilly, right? Let me remind you again. The per capita spend for the last fiscal year that everything's been reported from KFF.org, Alaska spends $19,464 per person. California, not one of the places that we consider would be, well, I'm sure they spend a lot on government. California spends $11,000 on each individual person per person in the state. And in Florida and Texas, $5,600 and $4,600 respectively. We are spending 4 times what these other states, and by the way, the average in America, the average per capita spend on a state spending is about $8,900, and we're spending $19,500. But what Matt Clayman wants to do is change the rules because we need more. The governor how dare he override us? How dare you? Hey, I mean, they want to do it. Bruce Botelho, the former Alaska Attorney General, said that it needs to happen because there's an imbalance in the respective powers of the legislature and the executive. He warned that when a relative minority can block a veto override, it raises the risk of policy-driven veto standing in the way of what he described as the will of the supermajority. No, the supermajority would be 3/4 vote, okay? I'm just saying, Bruce. Sorry. I mean, this is, again, how we've had to try and control the spending here in the state of Alaska. Now, where's this going to go? I don't know. Clayman introduced the same resolution back in 2024, but it never even reached the floor. It died before it reached the floor. Similar proposals have surfaced before, according to the article. Old Johnny Coghill, as chair of the Senate Judiciary, Democratic former Representative Jonathan Christ Tompkins, who is now running for governor, both put forth resolutions to lower the threshold and overturn the gubernatorial spending vetoes in 2020, but they also both died before reaching a floor vote. So we'll see. We'll see how JKT feels about that now that he's going to be governor. Maybe he feels differently. I don't know. We're hoping to talk with him next week on the thing here. We'll see what happens there. But we'll see what happens. The bill is now awaiting a floor vote in the Senate, and Louise Stutes, who's the House Majority Leader, said that they have not even discussed the resolution as a caucus yet in the House. So will it go anywhere? I don't know. But can't you just see them wringing their hands like, oh, we want all the power. There should be no checks and balances on us. How dare you? veto what we said was important. We'll see where it goes from here. All right, we got to fly here. We got more coming up. Chris Story's coming up at the end of the hour, and we will be back right after this. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, Liberty based free thinking. Wow, what's going on here? Back with more right after this.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Hi, how are ya? Hi, how are ya? A little chilly out there. Let's see. We all need more coffee. Yes, we all need more coffee. Kim said, I enjoyed the State of the Union last night. Democrats back on their heels. I did watch the State of the Union against my better judgment. My wife really wanted to watch it, so we watched it. Boy, it was a marathon. I kept waiting for him to say something about Alaska, and I think the only thing he mentioned Alaska about was the fentanyl deaths. But I mean, other than that, I kept hoping that there would be some kind of commentary or mention of energy in the gas line, and that never came out. Never came out. Terry says the governor hasn't so far used those powers. I mean, that's the truth. I mean, he has vetoed a few things, but not like, man, I would scribble the hell out of that budget if it was me. I would scribble the hell out of it. And I think one of the interesting things, like Bernadette said yesterday, is that even if you vetoed and even if you got overridden, you could still tell the administration and the commissioners not to spend it all. There's a lot of power in a governor's position, but they've got to be willing to exercise it. That's the thing. They've got to be willing to exercise it. Okay. Brian, I like your sidekick. What is there a side? Oh, he's got his puppy behind him. I was like, what was that? Yeah, okay. All right. Let's see. I'm all caught up. You guys have been awful quiet this morning. And there's a lot of you in here. There's like 60 of you in here. What, are you guys all okay? This thing on? You guys with me here this morning? Are you just all waiting for the coffee pot to brew? Is that what's going on? You guys are just all, I can't. We need a must. Put it in right now. Just give it to me. Is that what you guys are doing right now? Calvin is the dog's name. You could see him right over there, over Brian's shoulder. That's so cute. I'd show you a picture of Bosco, but he's curled up at my feet right now, so it's okay. And our newest addition, Huckleberry. Oh man. Corey still recovering from recovering from shoveling, says Corey. Yeah, kind of brutal out there, huh? Kim says y'all need better coffee. I just hope that they're not all drinking Folgers. That's what I'm just hoping that you guys haven't been infected by our resident's Folgers expert, because that would just be, life is too short to drink bad coffee and dance with ugly women. That's all I'm saying. Life is too short. Huckleberry. Yeah, there was a local local gal who bred Boston Terriers, whose husband passed away, and he passed away from COVID. She ended up getting long COVID, and she's had to basically disassemble her kennel. And so we ended up with one of her little pups. I mean, he's 3 years old, so he's not a puppy, but I just had to do it. I went over to investigate the whole thing, and then I was not expecting to walk away with a dog, but I did, because what can you do? So anyway, it's he's cute as a button. He's about half the size of Bosco, which is interesting. I've never had a dog that small. Okay, we're about ready to get back into it. You guys ready? Let's get to it. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Let's do this thing. I'm like 8 seconds early, so now it's not all dramatic and everything. But now I should be able to do this thing. Let's go.
The Michael Duke Show. Seriously humorous with a pinch of intellect. Sorry. That is humorous. Here's Michael Dukes.
Okay. Let's try this again. Welcome back to the program. Hump Day edition, middle of the week. Downhill slide to Firearms Friday. Yep, we are ready to go. Let's get back into it. So we totally changed gears in the chat room while we were on commercial break there, and now I've got to get back into track of what I was talking about. Oh, that's what I was talking about. So the Alaska House went ahead and voted on that supplemental budget on Monday. They did it. They made it happen. And they voted, and it passed the House 24-16. 24-16. With 3 minority members joining the majority to support the measure. But that is still 6 votes short of the draw from the Constitutional Budget Reserve. So what does it do? I don't know. We've passed it, but we haven't funded it. We passed it, but we haven't funded it. I will say that Iris Samuels, and I don't know if I doubt she's ever listened to this program or not, and maybe she took some criticisms to heart, but at least in this article, she does kind of make some of the points that we made during the program earlier this week on Monday, and I think late last week. She does point out that, well, a lot of this was the governor's spending, was the governor's request, but she did make a point to at least say that even as Governor Mike Dunleavy, who requested the funding, has not pushed for the spending package to be rushed, right? Because, again, this was time compression as a weapon. This is what they were trying to do. They were trying to rush everybody, and now you could see the blame game is starting. The blame game is starting with Zach Fields saying, failing the CBR vote blows up the fiscal year 27 budget. It guarantees a giant dumpster fire of a budget and deficit when instead we could pay our bills that are due now. But how does it blow up the fiscal year 27 budget? I mean, how? Because now you have to pay for it all out of regular funds, or because you got caught because you were trying to forward fund stuff using a supplemental budget. I wish there had been a follow-up question on that comment. I wish the follow-up question had come where they'd be like, what do you mean blows up the 2027 fiscal year budget? Because now you have to justify all those expenses. You can't just say that they were much needed and it was a rush and we had to do it right now because now is the time, because the governor requested them. And even the governor's like, I'm not asking you to rush it. I'm just saying this is, what we'd like to do. Anyway, so I was trying to give Iris Samuels kudos on the first part of this, but now this is where I get critical of her because she says the supplemental bill that advanced Monday is made up entirely of items requested by Governor Mike Dunleavy. Did he ask for the extra $30 million little spiff, the headroom, just in case we needed the extra $30 million? Did he ask for that? Did he ask for it all to be done like right now? I mean, he wanted that money put back in the higher education fund, and that's just a crisis point that we needed to get it done right now. Anyway, Will Stapp has been pretty critical of this thing right here, and he has done. I don't know if you went out and watched his videos that he posted to Facebook, where he had some speeches on the floor about voting this down to just the $70 million to meet the match. But you should go watch it if you haven't, because he lays it out pretty hard, and he's kind of pissed off when you can see it. I mean, you can see this guy is not happy with what they're doing because they're playing games. This is all about playing games. And I guess, you know what? The minority can play the same games back. Sure, go ahead. We'll vote for it. We just won't fund it out of the CBR. So now what are you going to do? Of course, they had to quote Andrew Gray. Don't you always have to quote Andrew Gray? Andrew Gray, the Anchorage Democrat, said he was shocked, quote unquote, shocked, I tell you, to find that his caucus was supporting supplemental budget requests that came from a Republican governor. Wait, I thought we were supposed to be non-bipartisan, doing the right thing. You're just shocked that your people are supporting a Republican governor. He said, shocked that they were supporting a supplemental budget request that came from the Republican governor while the GOP sought to block the funding. Well, that's the I just got a note that not all items, he doesn't put in his ads, or some of the more stupid items such as the $550K for historical preservation money. This is from what the governor, what the supplemental budget, what he wanted. He didn't put everything in there, and they were, again, I doubt the governor was asking for $30 million extra dollars just in case money. So anyway, where does it go now? The bill is being held in the House and will be voted on again later this week because they just couldn't muster the votes. Now, who voted? There was 3 minority members that crossed over to vote with the majority on it. Jeremy Bynum of Ketchikan, Mia Costello of Anchorage, and Frank Tomaszewski of Fairbanks. Those are the 3 that voted for the bill. I don't know why. I haven't spoken to any of them, but Bynum called it a very challenging vote. He said there's some compelling arguments made on both sides, adding that he felt that ultimately the bill was in the best interest of his district. I mean, I don't know what kind of compelling argument would make you want to forward fund stuff for next year's budget in a supplemental from this year. To me, one of these things is not like the other, right? Anyway, let's move over to the discussion on education. There are several different pitches in the legislature right now for funding education. In the House, they have a universal education head tax bill on every Alaskan who earns a wage or has self-employment net earnings. The bill from Zach Fields, Elise Galvin, and Andrew Gray and Rebecca Himshoot would establish a $150 head tax on all wage-earning Alaskans. In addition to that, and they estimate that would generate about $40 million. So $150 million for every person who earns a paycheck in one form or another. In addition to that, the bill adds a flat rate 4% income tax on an individual's income that exceeds $150,000 a year, or a couple's income that exceeds $300,000 a year if you're filing jointly. And so that would mean that they would have to pay, again, a 4% tax on all their income over the top of that, in addition to the $150 head tax. So if the $200,000 in taxable income, you're going to pay $2,000 in education income taxes, which is that because it's anything over $50,000, anything over $150,000 would be taxed at 4%. So you make 150, that leaves 50,000 times 4%, 2,000 plus the $150 head. So you're going to pay $2,100 in education taxes. This is what's going on in the House. This is HB 152. I mean, we're the cash cows for everybody. We're the cash cows for everybody. On the Senate side, the Kathy Giesel and company have shredded the governor's original revenue proposal, the original tax proposal. And now they're going to instead place a head tax on everybody to, again, take care of education. On the Senate side, if you earn $30,000 or less annually, you'd pay $10. 90 to 120 to 150, you'd pay $20 per person. If you earn more than 150, you'd pay $30 per person. This way, everybody takes part in supporting the state, which sounds a lot like now it's time for you to pay your fair share, doesn't it? Isn't that what we were talking about before? But again, the worst part about all this is that the head tax is not constitutionally dedicated. It just goes into the general fund. So ostensibly, they could spend it on anything they want, but that's the direction they're going. And apparently they need to. Again, Anchorage just reported that they are closing 3 schools, Fire Lake Elementary, Lake Otis Elementary, and the Campbell STEM Elementary. Now, they have repeatedly said that the reason that this is going on is declining enrollment and available revenues. Now, apparently the mayor, Suzanne LaFrance, didn't hear that. All she heard was, these cuts are on the table because the state funding formula has not kept up with today's realities. She missed the part where they lost 6,000 students over the last 8 years. That this is, again, an enrollment problem. When you build your entire model on a per student funding basis and you lose a huge chunk of them, like 7 or 8% of them, you are going to have to make some cuts, which of course nobody is happy about. Nobody is happy about. Right? I mean, all the parents and everybody else, they're just, it's the kids in my community and all this other. Okay, well, I guess you'll be happy to know that you can be writing a check for $2,150 to the school districts every year. If you just want to pay more. I mean, this is the thing. It's like government doesn't have to live within its means because everybody, and of course, everybody's like, I want all these things, but I'm not willing to pay for anything more. And like I said, the Anchorage School Board did it. I'm out of time here, but I was going to get into it. Nat Hers did Nat Hers over at the Northern Journal. He put a survey out to say how much money would you propose for schools? If you were the governor, what would your amount be for the BSA? Because it's currently at 6660. That's a little evil. 6660, up from 5960. Where would you want it to be? And there's some interesting answers in here. We may get to that later, but anyway, I'm up against the thing. I gotta go. All right, we gotta go. and we'll be back with more in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We return with more right after this.
Listened to by more staffers in Juneau than any other show because their bosses told them to. And after what they just heard, oh man, they're going to be pissed.
You're a bad, bad man.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay. What was Zach Fields is pretty much a drama queen. What are you trying to say, man? What are you trying to say? What are you trying to say? Rock star reality. That's what Chris Story is going to be talking about this morning. I suppose I should get all that ready here. The Anchorage School Board voted to close 3 schools. Unfortunately, it did not vote on closing the administration building. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Kevin says it's not HB 152 isn't an education tax. It's Alaska's return to a state income tax, which I think is that's actually the headline on this story where I was reading some of the details on this. It's a return to a state income tax. One way or the other. And of course, Galvin and companies that is pretty much an income tax. That's what it's all about. Frank says, I like the income tax. It's the easiest to manipulate. Instead of funding the K-12 by the number of students, how about funding K-12 by the number of education employees? Oof. Oh man. All right. Sorry. I got just call me Distracto Boy this morning. Just call me Distracto Boy. All right, let's get this going on. I see dead people. I see Chris Story is over here in the thing, the dealio. He's in the dealio. Let's bring him on board and see what he has to say. Hello, my. Why are you echoing back so bad, Chris?
Good morning, Michael.
Why am I hearing myself?
I don't know. It does sound a little unusual on my end as well.
Yeah,
very, quiet.
I'm hearing myself in your feed. And nobody wants this. You're such a dick. I mean, hold on a minute. All right. I'm gonna pull you out of the room here for a second, and we're gonna try this again. I'm gonna try and add you back to the stage, and if not, I'm gonna ask you to connect again because no, I still got a bad echo. Are you doing it on your phone? Is that what you're doing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's have you reconnect. So I'm gonna remove him from the chat room because I can't. I'm hearing myself back to myself. Which, as much as I'd love the sound of my own voice, I just think that maybe we'll try something different. We'll try something different here. All right. All right. Chris is here.
Oh, there you go. Now you're back to normal.
That was weird. I don't know what was going on, but I'm going to blame it on you because you had to come back.
I thought you were going to blame the legislature, but that's fine.
You know what? There you go. And they got broad shoulders. They can do it. It's good. All right. So, Chris, today, 2 minutes from now, we're going to kick things off. Rock star reality. Good. Did you catch the State of the Union address last night?
Yeah. I thoroughly enjoyed that.
What are your give me your overall thoughts? I mean, I'll be honest, I was a little disappointed that he didn't talk about Alaska Energy at all because I was expecting, I've been kind of holding my breath, waiting to see if the president was going to step up on any of this because I'm hopeful, but I'm not optimistic about the chances of a gas line. But I was hoping that maybe he would say something about it. But what's your overall take?
Well, he probably touched on it when he talked about it, energy independence for America in general versus, state by state. But I hear you that would have been a nice touch. But I felt it was optimistic, and um, I think it's good to hear from him and a reminder that he's turning a tanker. He's turning a tanker around. It takes time for things to happen. You can't just turn it on a dime, and to just sit there and kind of give a progress report of what's been going on, because you forget there's so much that has happened in a year. It's almost like the momentum seems to have slowed, but it really hasn't, because he came out of the gate like a
Right.
bobsled team. Only half of them or three-quarter didn't fall off. They just really, so much has happened. It was a great progress report, I thought, and very optimistic. And he seemed in good spirits. And man, what a night for America when you think about the Patriots that were
Oh,
celebrated and honored there.
yeah. Yeah, he definitely was having a good time. I mean,
Hmm.
he loves to be combative, and that was a perfect opportunity for him. Somebody just said, "No timer for Chris." Is Chris that good? Chris is not watching his phone. He's not looking at the screen to see the timer, so it wouldn't matter anyway. He's just gonna talk over it. That's how it works. All right. I love him so much right now. Okay, we're gonna get back into it. Chris Story, our guest, The Michael Duke Show. Let's do it.
Today's recipe is the important Alaskan news of the day with a dash of sardonic smile, a pinch of eye twinkle, not that you can see that on the radio, and a touch of acidity. It goes down easier like that. Don't question our recipes. The Michael Duke Show.
Yeah, I mean, don't question our recipes. We do this all the time. Come on, we're professionals. Joining me this morning, outside of his normal time slot, is our friend Chris Story, the man from Homer. You could find him at ilovehomeralaska.com. He's a realtor. He's a potter. No, the other kind. He's a radio show host. He's an author. He's a positivity guru. And today he's here to talk to us about Rockstar Reality Check. He's going to give us a Rockstar Reality Check. Hello, Mr. Story.
My rock star career flamed out early. I was 16, and I really felt, Michael, that I had what it took to be a drummer in any rock band in America. I really felt like, at the time, my dream was that the drummer for Twisted Sister would break his arm or something, nothing horrible, but that they would need me and I could fill in because I played along with every single one of their songs. I really thought I had a future as a drummer, and
Okay.
then I got my own rock star reality check, which was I have almost, not none, but almost zero talent. But have you ever heard of Dave Mustaine?
The name's familiar, but I can't know. Who is Dave Mustaine?
So he was the original lead guitarist for Metallica. And then in about 1980 or 81, as legend goes, he got fired, dramatically fired from Metallica, replaced, and he was sent packing. And he went on to form his own band, which has sold something like 40 to 50 million albums, called Megadeth. And they sold out arenas around the world. They've got legions of fans. And you'd think by all measure that as a rock star, he would feel successful because he's more successful than 90% of all other bands, like done amazingly well. And again, known around the world to people that like that kind of music. Michael, I know you're more of a Paul Anka, kind of guy. You've got different tastes. Yours run a little shallower. I get it.
Slim
I get it.
Shady.
But
Slim Shady. That's my taste is Slim
did you
Shady.
say P. Diddy?
P. Diddy. That's
Did-
exactly it. That's
So,
exactly
yeah, so we're a different milieu here, but you get the idea. Well, here's the thing. Dave Mustaine has never felt successful because his yardstick of success was going to be when he eclipsed Metallica. But the problem is Metallica has sold close to 200 million albums. And so by comparison, he's not successful. In his own mind, the reality check of his mind is, I'm not successful because I'm not measuring up to what he wanted. So in the difference between the reality and expectation lives this disappointment, because the reality is he'll never meet or beat Metallica's success. And just not in the cards for whatever
Right,
reason. It's
right.
just not. But he's super successful, but he doesn't feel that way. So he's climbing on the same mountain range, but they've reached different peaks. And all he can do is look up at where they're at and feel disappointment versus cherishing the place that he holds currently.
Isn't that human nature, though? I mean, don't we look at other people who have succeeded, and whether they had a leg up or an earlier start or whatever, a lot of times we could be successful, yet at the same time we're looking I mean, isn't that what Instagram is all about, right? Yearning for the success that others have.
And I think that's the danger of this comparison yardstick, or the what's often called as this comparison hangover, that you just, oh, look at what I've accomplished, and yet at the same time, oh, it's nothing by comparison. And you could look at almost any industry or any walk of life, family. You could say, oh, I'm so proud of my family. Oh, hey, I just ran into somebody I went to school with, and their kid just got into Harvard. Oh, okay, interesting. Or they just cured cancer. It's like, oh my God, where does it stop? And so I think about this in terms of a guy I met. So I met this guy at a speakers conference. I went to San Diego and attended this speakers conference, and it was a 4-day thing. And I got to know a few people. And one guy I had lunch with was a real estate investor. Well, he got out of the tech industry. He took some sort of a golden parachute and took his money and decided to take it not back into technology, but into real estate. And so as we're talking, we kind of draw into each other because obviously we're, similar interest. And he was telling me he's got over 100 doors. That's his quote, not mine. I got 100 doors. And I'm like, wow, and he lived in California. And I said, well, where at? And he goes, all over the country. He had, like, in 14, 15 different states, he had purchased apartment buildings and smaller complexes. And that could have given me a complex. I'm like, wait a minute. I had to pull myself back from the edge and go, hold on a second. I invest in my own backyard. I'm following my plan. I'm on my own race course here. I'm only comparing to who I used to be, not who this guy has become at about 10 years my junior. And but then the more I got to talking to him, the more I realized the potential fatal flaw in his plan was he had not been to any of the properties he'd purchased outside of California. Not any of them. He was relying on property managers and
Right.
brokers and appraisals. And I'm like, well, man, aren't you worried about a downturn? He goes, you mean like in '08? And I said, or the one in '99, or the one in '81,
Right.
or, and he
Right.
goes, haven't really looked into those. It's like, okay. So there's this idea, though, that if you compare to somebody else, I think you're always going to be disappointed, versus comparing yourself to who you used to be and setting your own goals and not falling into that trap.
Yeah, and again, I think it is a trap. It's a veritable trap. I mean, again, I mentioned Instagram, but only in passing. But we see that all the time. This curated thing of people only at their best, polished and buffed up by AI and Photoshop and everything else. And look at my life, isn't it great? Don't you envy me? And yet, if you knew the truth, like you said, you found out the guy, sure, he's got 100 doors or whatever, but he has no clue as to how those local market works. He has no idea what happens if there's a downturn. He's not hands-on. So again, you got to be happy with what you're doing and again, this requires, dare I say it, Chris, self-reflection, which I swear to God is the hardest thing for, including myself, for me to take a moment and kind of sit back in a quiet room, because I'm going all the time, to take that moment and self-reflect. It's the hardest thing that I have to do. I'll be honest with you.
It is. It's not easy, which makes it an interesting practice. Just like anything, it requires practice, whether it's mindfulness or meditation, or making time for prayer that isn't just in moments of crises, making time for any faithful practice, any spiritual practice, any self-revelatory idea that you could become better by practicing something. I'd suggest, yeah, you're never going to have as many followers as Mr. Beast. That ain't going to happen. There's always somebody who's going to have more followers, more
You know what I
doors,
mean?
better timing, better looks. For Michael, I can relate to this one. Better hair. Like, I gotta be very careful about that. I'm very prideful about my hair. It's a little thick, luscious locks. Just don't
Yeah,
look at the back. Do not
yeah.
look at the very back. And I
Look
always
at the
sit
very
with my
top.
back to the wall for a reason.
The very top right there. I know I got that little monks thing going on right there. Like, what is that? No, I mean, you're right. We need that self-reflection. And like and sometimes I'll say to myself, I'm going to get up, I'm going to get up a little earlier than I normally do. And I'm already up pretty early before the show, but I'm going to and I'm just going to sit down in the studio and I'm going to think. And that never works. I have to go to another room because with my stuff in front of me and everything else, I immediately start thinking about other stuff. It's a practice. It's a practice that you have to dedicate yourself to be able to understand where you're coming from, where you're going, and the difference between the two of you, between, the past and the present, so to speak.
Tiffany and I were watching. She's a designer. She's an interior designer and decorator, and she anyways watches a lot of these different YouTube videos where people are talking about their home decor or whatever. And this one woman was sitting there and she said, okay, this is a YouTube thing, and she's like, we've got 100, we just hit 125,000 followers, and come on, we can do it. We can build this community to even bigger. And Tiffany and I are both looking at each other like, for who? Like what? If Tiffany's her prototypical community member, why does she care if it's 200,000 followers or 250 or whatever? It was so blatantly obvious. It was just out there in front of everybody that her real goal isn't to improve your life, but to improve her own self-standing in the
Right,
world, measured by how many followers she had. And it's a
right.
sad thing because she was actually pretty talented if she had just let go of this comparison yardstick to the designer ahead of her who's got 1 million followers or a
Right.
million two.
Do your thing, do your own things, blaze your own, be a trailblazer, blaze your own
Run
path.
your own race.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's right.
45 seconds, final thoughts here, Chris.
I think you nailed it with self-reflection. You just take a minute. Like, do you really know your goals? Do you know what you want and what your expectation is and the reality? Because I think if you keep your reach beyond your grasp enough, but not too far, I think you will find not just a good life, but you'll be contented as well in this life.
All right, Chris Story, the man from Homer. Thanks for changing days for me, my friend. I appreciate that. I know
Absolutely.
I know it kind of blows your schedule all up, but you were kind enough to do it, and I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing with us today. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, Chris Story, the man from Homer. All right, we got more coming up. The Michael Duke Show, Hour 2, dead ahead. Delana Johnson, our guest. We'll be back. Okay. Let's see here. Are we ready? We're kind of ready to. No, pull that. But where are you going? What are you doing? All right, let's get this going on. Sorry, Frank is just being so. Why are you being so pedantic today, Frank? Frank is stuck on something that Bernadette said yesterday, that she never received a government check. And then he points out that her company has contracts with the city of Anchorage and Wasilla. Yeah, but I think what she meant was that she personally has never taken a government check, like as a paycheck or as a welfare check. Or, I mean, if you're a business and I've taken money from the city and the state as a radio station because they want to put, public notices on or whatever. Does that make me a government shill? I think you're just being pedantic at this point, Frank. I mean, I guess I think that's. Are you just being curmudgeonly for the sake of being curmudgeonly? I'm just asking. I think we all know what she meant. Her company may have contracts with governments or cities or even the state, maybe. I don't know. But everybody needs their trash hauled. Right? Everybody needs their trash hauled. So don't get it twisted, man. I mean, I'm not going to agree with everything that she says. But I think that's just kind of nitpicky. All right. I see that Delana Johnson, she's actually been hanging out with us here for a little bit. She apparently is also the early bird. She needs another worm. So let's check the audio and video here before we get too far along. I want to go back through some of the comments that I missed, and we'll see what's going on. But first, we'll bring Delana on and see what her see if everything's working right, because technology and everything. Good morning. How are you? Well, and see, this is why we do this, because I can't hear you. Might have check your microphone. Check your you see you're not muted. So now you're muted. So unmute yourself. You have muted yourself, it says. You're all right. So maybe what you might want to do is you might want to reconnect. And then before you hit the join button, there's should be a little meter there that shows that your microphone is actually working. Because now you've unmuted yourself, but I still can't hear you. So, well, maybe it's because that's me. Try it one more time. Are you there? No. I thought it was me maybe for a second, but it's not. So let's try and rejoin, and we'll see what we can come up with. And if not, then maybe we'll have to do it on the phone. But just disconnect and reconnect, and we'll try it again. We'll get her squared away. I don't know I don't know what you're saying. I'm going to kick you from the studio, and you can reconnect, and we'll do that. There we go. Okay. Oh, I'm going to kick her from the studio, and we're going to try that right there. Boom. Okay. I'm going back up here. What you're saying. Terry says, thank you, MD. Curmudgeonly. Lisa says, in regard to what Chris was saying, you need to remember all the things you've accomplished and be proud of yourself and be patient with yourself. Yeah, I mean, again, it requires that self-reflection, which is not an easy thing sometimes to participate in. Not an easy thing to participate in, that self-reflection. There's many times, because sometimes we don't like ourselves as much as we probably should. Let's put it that way. Sometimes we just don't like ourselves, and we don't necessarily want to look inward because there's stuff there, man. Stuff there that, we might have to address. And for a lot of us, avoidance is a plan. Avoidance is a plan. I spelled curmudgeonly wrong. I know, man. I was just giving you a hard time. No big deal. No big deal. Absolutes are hard to defend, says Frank. Dude, I mean, okay. Stop acting like Harold, Frank. It's unbecoming, says Terry. Yeah, I mean, Harold's not here today, so maybe we're feeling good about that. All right, we are. I don't know what's going on with Delana. She hasn't responded back yet, so we'll have to see what's going on. But we will continue here in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Please like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all that stuff. YouTube, the YouTube and the Facebook things, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And let's get back to it. I'm just going to start bumping the music out here while we wait for Delana to rejoin.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Oh, live around the world on the internet at MichaelDukesShow.com and across the great state of Alaska on this, yo favorite radio station and or FM translator. Good morning, my friends. Welcome to Hump Day, middle of the week, downhill slide to Firearms Friday. You could see that coming. You could see it. It's going to be here.
Wait, click on
any moment. It's going to be here any moment. Oh, I heard her audio's working. Okay. We're going to be jumping into it here in just a minute with Delana Johnson, the House Minority Leader, who's going to be with us to discuss the state of the state. First things first, though, quick roundup from around the state. 10 degrees down here in Homer, on top of the world, in the best place to live in Alaska. 2 degrees in Anchorage, minus something in the Matsu, and 20 something below up in Fairbanks right now. So it's a little chill out there. There are some weather advisories. That high wind advisory is still going on for the Seward area. And of course, there is a weather advisory, cold weather advisory for both the Kenai and the Matsu. And that all has to do with wind chills, because it's blustery. It done be blustery out there. So stay warm. The winter storm warning has been canceled for Fairbanks, but now they're just saying it's just going to be cold. So, it's Fairbanks. What are you going to do? All right, let's get into it and jump in. I poked the audio here a second ago, and I heard Delana Johnson was I could hear the audio before. We're going to see if she's going to jump back. That's not Delana now. I see it's somebody else. I can hear. Can you want to turn that thing around here and let me see. Let's go over here. Let's just do this.
Right.
I mean, it's radio. What else are we do? Good morning. How are you? I know you're not Delana.
And to you as well.
Yeah, there we go. Hello. Can you hear me now?
Send.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna get this here real quick. Let me just do it the old-fashioned way, and we'll use her video and try it this way. How about that? So
hello, Michael.
Hello, how are you? I'll tell you what.
Well, I was doing pretty well there for a while.
Yeah, I can hear you. So why don't you just slap that laptop back down and sit in front of it with your phone if you want, and we can do it that way, because I could hear you when you reconnected. So
okay,
we're all
right.
I don't think you could hear
Let's
me.
see if we can do that.
I don't know if you could hear me or not, but we'll try that here. Delana Johnson, our guest, who is again the House Minority Leader, getting ready to talk about everything that's going on in the state of Alaska with the legislature and more. Let's see here. We need to turn the laptop. I'm looking at somebody who's not Delana right now on the laptop. Okay. All right. All right. So Delana, tell us, hi, how are you? It's been a hot minute since we've had a chance to talk and discuss, and it's been definitely, may you live in interesting times is definitely kind of where we're at right now. Give us an update on everything that's happening down there in the legislature, and your overall thoughts here as we get started.
Wow, there's certainly a lot could be between the last time I talked to you and now.
Yeah.
But I mean, right now we're kind of in the midst of the supplemental budget, which you talked about a little bit this morning. So that's where all the, that's what's happening right now, is we're going to have that vote on the floor today.
Right. And you're talking about, of course, the supplemental $500 million. I mean, I don't know. Is that not, that's got to be one of the largest supplementals we've ever seen. And there apparently has been a rush. This has all been very rushed. We need it. We need it now. This is what the governor wants. Why aren't you guys doing what we told you to do? That seems to be kind of the reaction from a lot of folks down there.
Yeah, so it is the largest supplemental that we've had in state history. I mean, it's the largest one in state history, and we have and what I guess I would like to clarify, or what the way I see it, it's really not what we've gotten into is we've gotten into this thing where we're really bleeding one budget year into another. So what we're looking at really isn't a supplemental for FY26. We could put this one, a lot of the items into FY27. We do it a lot of times. We'll put all the budget items together and so what we do have is the HIFE funding, the higher ed fund, and that money was used last year as a way to get around the CBR vote. And the CBR vote really, I mean, I want to remind everyone, and we're in the minority. So a lot of times people will say, oh, why don't you just do this? And why don't you just do that? Well, being a minority member, what we can do a lot of times maybe is stop something, or we can shine the light on things, but we can't necessarily, instigate a lot of things. Anyway, but the CBR vote, which requires 3/4 of the members, is something that they have to have us for that vote. And that's what gives us some leverage, not leverage necessarily to add things, not necessarily leverage to do this and that, but sometimes it does give us the opportunity to cut the budget, and it gives us an opportunity to, maybe get a bill passed. But last year, instead of giving us the opportunity to talk about that and negotiate on the CBR vote, it's like, well, we have a pot of money over here. We have the higher ed fund. We'll just take it out of there, and then we can bypass the minority altogether. So I guess we should be there's something to be said for knowing that people don't want to deal with you, or don't want to, that they're that nervous about having the conversation. But it's not okay to just not go through the process, and it's not okay to put this much money into the next year's budget.
Well, and we've seen this time and time again in the legislature, where they use time compression as a weapon, right? Where you've got it, we hold, and then at the end it's like, okay, now we're out of time. Now we got to do it now. And this is the same kind of thing they appear to be doing with this bill, where, if we don't get this money now, then, puppies and, people will die, and we won't get the thing. But they are the ones that have tried to force because again, Will Stapp put in his amendment, right, to reduce it just down to the match, which was the start of this whole thing, this DOT match. And they continue to refuse to take any of the amendments from the minority side. You guys put up a ton of amendments, many of which I thought were very, very good, but they didn't even consider them. It was always a 21-19 vote. And so they're using this time compression now as a weapon to try and bludgeon you with it. Zach Fields is now saying, well, we're blowing up the 27 budget. How are you blowing up the 27 budget on something that's a supplemental from last year? How is that? I mean, I can't even do the math on that.
Well, it's because it's not a discrete process. It's not 27 and 26. We're conflating the years. And that the thing that I really have a problem with is that makes it so there's no transparency on what is being spent in what year. And I mean, if you want to talk about where your deficits are or any of those things. And so that's a challenge for me as far as having this large supplemental like this. The things that needed to be fast tracked, potentially the disaster money, and the contractor money. Now there's differing opinions on that, but the thing is we are going to fund that if that is what appears to be needed, because it's 70 million getting us 700 million. Let's go ahead and fund it. And so the way we had our amendment set up on the floor was we had varying fund sources. Okay, don't want to do a CBR draw, we can do it this way. And then we would have some majority members stand up and say, oh, no, we can't do it like that. We need to do it this way. And so we say, oh, well, by the way, we just happen to have amendment in our back pocket that just does it exactly how you said you would like to see it. There we go. We got our amendment, but that one failed also. So we're having a very hard time do what we would call a fast track supplemental is what actually needs to get done. The fast tracked items aren't being fast tracked. And so, but we aren't going to be leveraged as a minority into giving our CBR vote in February, which takes us completely out of the running of any kind of discussion in the FY27 budget.
Right. Well, and again, this is part of the problem of they're trying to, when I first saw this, my immediate impression was this is kabuki theater, right? Because we're going to put all this in here. We're going to try and force all this through. Now, normally you guys don't even deal with a supplemental till like March, right? Or something. I mean, this is significantly earlier. They say the governor wants all these things, but the governor wasn't pushing for a fast track. Even DOT said, we've got enough money to make this work. Just make sure you put the money in the regular budget. But they want to make a lot of hay about it. And they want to throw egg on the face of the minority and hold you guys hostage on this. This is my interpretation. Hold you guys hostage on this to say, well, if we don't get the CBR vote, then it's the minority's fault. If we don't get this fast track bill, it's the minority's fault. If we don't get this supplemental money, this $70 million, then it's the minority's fault. It seems to me in an election year that this is really more about virtue signaling and, again, trying to place blame than it is actually trying to have good governance. That's my opinion. I don't know. Am I wrong?
Not at all, in my opinion as well. And I think yesterday, I believe it was Brad Keithley that said that this session he felt like just all around was performative. And I thought about that and I thought, sadly, that is very true. I feel like people are marking time and, introducing bills that maybe we should be happy about that. Maybe if we're just performing on tax bills and we're not actually planning to get that through, maybe that's a good thing. But there's there's every bill seems to be introduced for a speech instead of a speech for a bill. Well, we're going to introduce a bill because we just came up with a great speech and we want to have a bill to do it. Same thing with the supplemental. I mean, it's always interesting to me because if we're a minority, doesn't that kind of indicate, and oftentimes that the majority has a way to figure things out. They have the votes to do it, but yet how did the minority get in how are we the problem? So we've offered our 3/4 vote on fast track items, but we haven't offered our 3/4 vote on just a full 500 million supplemental. We just can't do it. It doesn't make any sense in February before we've even had the spring revenue forecast. Spring revenue forecast should come out in March. We don't even know what the numbers look like as far as oil prices actually up. We have 51 million. They say that we're short, but that will all change in March when we get the revenue forecast. We've got an extra 30 million headroom. Do we really need that? There is no rush other than getting the 70 million out the door. And there's debate on that. And so rush budgets are problem budgets.
I agree. I agree. Again, time compression is a favorite tool, I think, of the legislature in general, but the current majority specifically because they've been using it for years and years and years. Delana Johnson is our guest. We're up against the break here, so we're going to continue real quick, and we'll be back. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show continues. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We'll be back with Delana Johnson right after these messages. Don't go anywhere.
Listen to by more staff than any other show because their bosses told them to. And after what they just heard, they're going to be pissed.
You're a bad man.
The Michael Duke Show.
What happened? Yeah. All right.
Okay, we're in the break right now. And I think. Let me. I think Delana is hearing me. I'm going to. Delana, are you hearing me through your phone and your computer at the same time?
I'm hearing you through my phone.
So I'm.
Let's see. Let me turn this down and let me just see.
There we go. You can hear me now through your phone, right? Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can't hear you.
Okay, that's fine. We'll just keep it.
Wait. Technology is happening here. Okay, yeah, I can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And you could still hear me.
Yes. I just
Okay. Okay. Now you can hear me through your computer.
Yes.
Okay. Look at that. We can be taught. Okay. All right. We got it. All right. Well, as you can see the timer above my head, that means this side. That means we're going to be returning to the radio at that moment, and so we'll get ready to do it. Delana, why, why do we keep having the same problems over? I mean, this same kind of thing seems to repeat itself. This performativeness, the trying to hold people, to blame others instead of doing what the job is. I mean, we've seen this on the CBR vote. That's why the CBR vote failed last year, was because the minority was not going to be pushed around. And so they ended up taking stuff from the higher education fund and everything else. I mean, is it because it's working? Do they feel it's working? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I will say the government is we don't fix something one day and it stays fixed. I mean, we do have to go through things over and over and over again. So, I mean, that is one thing. But I do think that this has gotten worse. I don't know if I can say why. I've actually been giving a lot of thought to this recently because I don't remember. And I've asked some people, is this something that used to be this way? And I don't recall it being to this level where there had to be the constant finger pointing and setup and the performance and so on. So I guess maybe I'll say that there's a lack of experience. We do have a lot of new legislators, but that maybe also because we do have such a thin razor's edge. I mean, we have the largest majority that you can have and not be in the majority. So we have 19 to 21. And when you get like that, I mean, it's not as easy to just kind of put things through because you have a large number of votes. I mean, every member of their caucus has veto power. So if one member doesn't like what's up there, it doesn't get through.
I mean, that is the danger of a thin majority because, again, it does relegate a lot of power to individual members. You guys saw that when you were in the majority as well. On your side, having a thin majority does not make it easier. But I mean, I guess and I don't think it's new members. I'll be honest. I don't think it's new members because what we're seeing is the old guard. They're kind of, I feel like they're the chess masters moving the new pieces on the board and always trying to corner the minority into something that they can be blamed for, especially in an election year. We've seen some of these bills that are coming up now where they'll be able to pat themselves on the back and tell their constituents, oh, look what I tried to do. And boy, I couldn't get it through, but I tried to do it for you. And that, again, that's where Brad and I were talking about. He said non-serious. And I was like, no, it's all performance. It's all performative. That is the challenge there.
I think we've gotten a little bit lazy in debate, lazy in transparency, lazy in process. And I'm not going to tag that on. I try to be even-handed and say that's, tag that on everyone. But because like I said, I've been giving this a lot of thought. And one of the things I feel like is that taking the permanent fund dividend, I feel like people have a hard time just saying, well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this because we don't want to go to the public with taxes, whatever the reason might be. Instead, we have to be in crisis mode to take it. Oh my gosh, the sky is falling. We have to have this money. So we've been performing, I think, in crisis mode for the last 10 years because we have to take the dividend and we are in a crisis. And what's really hard about that, in my opinion, is that is drifting out of the state.
Hold on. I'm going to rejoin and we can pick this up. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Let's go.
All right. I think we've been operating in crisis mode because people.
Public enemy number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke Show.
Okay, we're back right now. Representative Delana Johnson joins us, House Minority Leader. We were just talking about, the performativeness of this, kind of the kabuki theater of it all, and this taking of the PFD. And Rep. Johnson was just making a valid point, I think, that they keep going after the PFD because it's the easiest pot of money. It's easy, but they use crisis as a cover to justify why they do it. Instead of just saying, well, we're taking the money because it's easiest and we don't want to come back to the people and tell them that they're going to have to pay a tax or something else. It was easiest to take the PFD and to live inside that crisis, right? Never let a crisis go to waste.
Well, and if you manufacture a crisis, after a while, it starts getting too much. But so I mean, instead of saying, well, we think, and whoever that collective we is, $1,000 is enough, $1,400 is enough. And instead of being able to say that and go out and tell your constituents that, it's like, oh my gosh, we have to have this, we have to have that, or we're going, we don't want to implement taxes, so therefore we are going to say, oh my gosh, we have a crisis, we have to take the dividend. And unfortunately, and I think this is for our whole system, for the whole state and outside of the state, I think this has been going on so long. We've been operating in this horrible crisis. Alaska's in a horrible crisis. We're in a spending crisis or a revenue crisis for the last 10 years. That word is getting on the street where we are seeing the out-migration. We're starting to see this idea that Alaska is not a safe place to live in or invest in because we're in crisis mode all the time. We don't have enough. It's drifting. That message is, we're phenomenal messengers because that's getting outside of the state of Alaska too. Outside of the state of Alaska, you start talking to people and you realize that one time, the north of the future, the excitement about being able to go north and be self-determining, that's not there anymore. It's that word that we're in crisis mode, that we can't manage our revenues, that we can't, all the different things that we continue to say, I think, just to keep from having to make some hard decisions. It's that messaging is getting out there 10 years in. And unfortunately, that message throughout the country is that Alaska is not a safe place to make your investments at.
Well, because that's the thing. It's true. I mean, at this point, we are in a crisis. I mean, you can look at the 10-year forecast. You can see the trajectory of the spend. Even the governor's forecast, which had pretty rosy expectations as far as how far, how much spending was going to increase, even those are in the red all the time. And so we have to make those hard decisions. We have to say that we have a crisis, we have to address it, we have to fix it. But instead, we just keep kicking the can down the road. So we could have fixed this crisis in 2013 and 2014, but we didn't. We could have fixed it in 2016. We could have fixed it in 2020. But nobody has been willing to be the adult in the room and say, we can't keep doing what we're doing. I think it's going to take a complete destruction of the permanent fund dividend and then an implementation of some kind of tax before people start to wake up. That's the downside here.
Well, I sure hope not. I mean, that's a painful thing to hear, and I sure hope not. But one thing I do want to point out, and I don't think people aren't talking about this piece either, is we have the statutory draw. If you don't talk about the statutory dividend, if you just talk about the statutory draw should be double the amount of the money that we would put in for the permanent fund dividend.
Right.
But we're not doing that anymore. I believe it was 2018, we changed our formulaic draw into a percent of market value draw. And that's less than the statutory draw. So this year, the POMV draw would be 3.9 billion and the statutory draw would be about 4.7 billion. But if we're trying to pay a statutory dividend out of a POMV draw, which is $1 billion less, we're immediately setting ourselves up for $1 billion deficit. Well, we're not trying to pay a statutory dividend, but why not tell people we're not doing a statutory draw, we're doing a POMV draw, and we're going to do, at a minimum, the 50-50 of the POMV. But see, we're just to me, it's like kind of the manufactured crisis that people really aren't talking about these numbers.
Yeah, because you've got two competing statutes. Instead of taking issue and going back to the original statutory dividend statute, they put the POMV draw in on top of it, and now you've got two competing statutes. One of the statutes has got to go. If you were going to be adults about it, one of them would have to be either stricken or adjusted or whatever. But instead, we get these competing things. And that's where we've been at a manufactured crisis, because never let a crisis go to waste. That's where we're at right now.
Think about this, though. If the market drops, if the market goes down and the statutory draw drops below what the POMV draw would be, I can guarantee you we will go right back to the statutory dividend because it would be less than the POMV. So maybe there's a reason some people want to keep both those statutes on the book.
But again, this is kind of like the Russian roulette of laws. I mean, we'll just leave whatever laws we want. We'll ignore them until we need them, and then we'll bring those back out and ignore the other one. That's not good governance.
It is not good governance. So I just, for the record, I want to say I do not like what has happened with our, just a lot of the ideas of making Alaska a trust fund state, the POMV, so on and so forth, whatever. Right. But that's where we're at. That is where we're at. And so I'm trying to work within the system that we have. And as a minority member, and, there's a lot of things I don't like, but I can't go back and unwind it because this is the road that path we've been set down. And it's a challenge. It's a tremendous challenge as a minority member to decide, exactly what to pick up and run with.
Yeah. So a POMV draw, 3.8 billion, a statutory draw, 4.7 billion. There's a big difference in there. And that might be one of the reasons why we're having such a hard time paying a statutory PFD, because they've left a bill. I mean, what's in the ERA right now? $10 billion?
About 13, I think. 13. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We have about 13 in earnings. I think it's about 12 billion in the ERA.
In the ERA. Yeah. So, I mean, again, 12 billion, it's just been sitting there. They've consistently, was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago, they transferred 3 billion back into the corpus and everything else. And now we hear about this new plan to combine the two funds, to combine them, make them a sovereign wealth fund, set a 5% draw, and everything will be fine. Except, of course, that we just saw the numbers from the Permanent Fund Corporation themselves in their annual reporting, where they're showing that their 10-year annualized draw in real returns is only 4.8%. That causes a problem when you're drawing 5% and your only real return is 4.8. Then you start eating into the corpus of the fund, which is why it was constitutionally protected in the first place.
Yeah.
I mean, am I crazy, Delana, or does that seem counterproductive?
Well, there's so much. There is so much that's counterproductive, and it's hard to even go through it. I feel like I want to go through things line by line. I know you guys don't want to hear all that. You know what I did is I made sure I didn't have a whole bunch of line by line things to bring to talk to you about, because I don't want to go there. But there is no question. Some of this is just, you look at it and you go, oh my gosh, why? But here we are. Right. So you're not wrong on that.
So what happens with the supplemental? Because the supplemental is still being held in the House. So it comes up for a vote today, tomorrow, Friday. We're still they're going to re-vote again to see if anybody changed their mind. Is that the plan?
Representative Costello served notice of reconsideration, which means the bill is held in the House and not transmitted. And that means it can be brought up by any member for a vote of reconsideration. It does not have to. I believe if we make it through the end of this session that we have today, and that no one brings it up for reconsideration, then the original vote stands.
And what happens now that the bill has been passed, but there is no funding mechanism? It's not coming from the CBR. So how does it get funded? How does the $500 million get funded if it's not coming out of the CBR the way the vote sits right now?
Well, it's just passed over unfunded. But it doesn't mean we are going to have to take CBR vote. And that's what I want to remind my members is, don't get too wrapped up on the fact that you can never vote for a budget, because if we want to ever go home and leave Juneau, which, I really want to do sooner rather than later, we're going to have 9 members that vote for the budget. But that's where, if we have any leverage at all, we can say we aren't voting for this budget unless we, at least drop it down, whatever that negotiation might be. But we are going to have to vote for the CBR draw to fund this budget. It will be in concert with the FY27 budget at probably towards the end of the session. So we're going to end up funding this, just not giving up all of our leverage in February.
That makes sense to me. All right. Some of the other things that are still on the table. One is, of course, this continuing discussion on education. We need more education money. We need defined benefits back, because that's the only way we can retain employees, apparently. And of course, anything else that might come up as far as oil and gas and everything else. What are you seeing as far as other spending measures, and what's your stance? What's the minority stance on some of these spending measures? Like the education and the defined benefits bill, et cetera, et cetera. Where are we at on these?
The defined benefit bill is probably one of the easiest, because we, as a block, voted no. It was sent out of the House. It's in the Senate. I don't know how that will come back. There's definite dissension on the Senate side on how that's going to look. So defined benefits, that's in the Senate, and the House majority and minority has been clear on their votes on that. Education, that we took all the extra money that we had, and this is what I don't know if people have really see, is that $200 million that we put towards education last year was all the extra money that we had. So I think one of the things that, clearly Alaska is a huge state and we never have enough money. It would be like having, an enormous family that no matter how many jobs you work, you would never have enough to feed them. So Alaska, we just don't have the years and years of infrastructure. We don't have, the population. We don't have the industry. We have to prioritize. And so we prioritized education last year, $200 million. That was all the money, the extra money coming in. If we're going to add more to education, the question is where's it going to come from? And
Right.
So that's the question now is, you always have money for your first priority. I tell people
Right.
that if you want to do something, okay, tell me how you're going to do that and how that makes sense. But we can't just, it's such a beautiful, easy thing when you have a ton of money. You don't have to make anyone upset and you don't have to think that hard. But we have to do a lot of thinking, and we have to be very, a lot of, precise work on how we spend our money.
Well,
And
and I want to
education,
Yeah, and I want to remind people that $200 million was not a one-time thing. We have added $200 million in perpetuity every year, right? So forever. It's a forever thing. It's not just, this is as much money as we had this year. No, that's $200 million every year going forward until the end of time. And I got to be honest, again, there is no more money. I wanted to throw this up here real quick before we run out of time for this segment, but this is from the KFF. KFF.org is the organization, and they look at different state spendings and things like that. And one of the things that they put out there is the spending for per capita spending. And I'm just breaking this down. I didn't include all 50 states. I just showed you the number one in per capita spending is Alaska at almost $19,500 per person. California, which we always talk about, the excess of California government, they're only spending $11,500. The average is about $9,000, $8,958. But Florida and Texas are at $5,600 and $4,600 respectively for their per capita spend. We're already spending 4 times what some of the fastest growing states in the nation are spending. And even the big dog of California, we're spending almost double what California is. How much more do we need to spend on state government? That's my question.
Great question. I don't know if I have an answer for that. I have an answer. My answer for education is this. First of all, don't forget that we're not just spending $200 million. We're pushing, that's just the added money. We're pushing $1.5 billion. $1.5 billion is our education budget. Maybe you could say Alaska has rural schools. We have, difficult circumstances. Maybe we need extra money. I don't, I'm challenged with that, but let's say that's the case. But what's not okay is our outcomes. Our outcomes can't be at the bottom like they are. Now, I'm a product of Alaska's education system, and I had, I was in a small town. I grew up in Talkeetna. I had fabulous teachers. I look back on it and think, how lucky was I? And so what happened? Somewhere in the last 40 years, we went from being close to the top to being the bottom. And that's not okay. I mean, the money, that's happened. I fought against that, but that's where we're at. Now what? Now how we are failing our children, and how are we as policymakers going to try to make that change? I'm really disturbed about where we're going with our education. And I don't like to use the word, I mean, I do. I mean, I like the word accountability, but like a lot of words, that starts getting mixed in with all kinds of different thoughts and policy. But I will just say this, we got to make it so kids can read and write and get a job. And when they do leave Alaska, that they're not having to do remedial training just to make it through a freshman class.
Right. Well, we've been talking about that in this program for years. I interviewed somebody who worked for the university when I was in Fairbanks, who had to remain anonymous because he was concerned about the backlash when he brought it up, that we were seeing something like 68% of the students had to take remedial math just to take a 100 level math course at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. I mean, that's crazy. All right, we're up against the break here. I'm going to give Delana the floor in the next segment, where she can just, anything that she thinks is important for us to know or talk about. That's coming up next here. We're going to continue here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Delana Johnson, our guest. We return with more right after this. Don't go anywhere.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Now, Delana Johnson, our guest. Jedediah. Some bush schools are paying so much per kid that they could go to a European boarding school at $100,000 a year. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And again, what I think one of the things, Delana, that you hit on there that I think is the most important is we're spending more per capita than anybody else. And yet we're still receiving the lowest. I mean, we're 48, 46, 48, 49, 51 out of 53 in the reading comprehension. I mean, it's just, how can we continue to argue that it needs more money when obviously we're doing something functionally wrong in the policies and the procedures, in the structure of it, right? Mississippi, Alabama, these are places that have done amazing things with reading and math respectively. Why aren't we taking more from those books? And they did it without spending a lot more money. Why does it take 6 or 7 years to implement these things that we've seen success with and now still demand more money?
Well, there's been, I'll give Governor Dunleavy a lot of credit on the education with the READS Act and so on. And knowing that if we could do something with with the children that are up to third grade, if we can just get them reading. So there have been changes, and that's where Mississippi, I mean, we took a page out of Mississippi's book because they were squarely at the bottom. At least at one time, Alaska used to be able to say, well, at least we're not Mississippi. Well, we're Mississippi now. We're at the bottom. And because Mississippi decided to make some real changes. They changed, they did something similar to READS Act. They implemented a lot of school choice. And Mississippi has done a great job making some changes. Alaska, we need to stand up and do a lot of the same. Governor's tried to do that. He's done a lot, as much as he possibly can, given the adverse legislature that he has.
Well, it's a challenge. Again, what I see and what you kind of hinted at earlier was that there's this huge appetite for spending, and there doesn't appear to be a huge appetite for accountability. There's a huge appetite for spending. You don't want to be restricted, but at the same time, when the statistics and the metrics don't work out, the answer always seems to be just more money. That's the answer, Delana. We're not doing well, so we need more money. I mean, we were spending in 2015, we were spending more than any other state in the nation on education, and we still didn't see an uptick in our educational outcomes. So at some point, somebody has to say something's fundamentally broken here.
Well, I think a lot of people are saying that something's fundamentally broken, but what we're having a hard time with is getting people to agree on what it is to fix. And I guess I kind of make the joke that there's a guy, his name is Mo Money, and Mo Money is just walking up and down the halls in the Capitol, and this is where he's at right now. He's saying, "Oh, if I just had a little." Mo Money is knocking on the door, and he wants just a little bit more for education right now. And what I would like to say is we put $200 million in the base, forever money. That means $1 billion every, I think it's 8 years additional. Give us an opportunity to see what, if the money does make the difference, we should see a corresponding uptick in the educational outcomes. Let's see if that makes that difference that they claim that it's going to make.
Yeah, I mean, when you see someplace like Mississippi, who was in the bottom of the bucket educationally on their reading for sure, and then with almost no money, just a fundamental policy change on how they did things in different programs, they jumped up to the top 1/3 of all the states out there. And again, they're not spending a fraction of what we're spending on education. In fact, even their per capita spend in their state is well less than half of what we're spending in our state on a per capita basis for government as a whole. We need to learn from that. And again, it took 6 years for this READS Act thing to go through. And at the same time, every year there's a fight. Oh, do we get 50 million? Do we get 75 million? Do we get 40 million? Do we get 120 million in one-time funding? Because it's always about the money. It's not about changing policies or changing procedures and acknowledging that what we're doing is not working.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have much to add to that. You're just right on the money on that one.
Yeah, it is a tough time right now on this as well. All right. So in the next segment, Delana, I'm just going to give you the floor, and what else do people need to be aware of? What should we be paying attention to? What do you think is important in the coming days of the session? We kind of want to hear from you. What is the minority focused on? And how can we help is the big question. How can we help the legislature in these things? So we're going to continue here with Delana Johnson. We're about 15 seconds out. So please like and share the show. If you haven't already, please like and share. If you're on YouTube, you can subscribe. You can ring the bell. If you're on Rumble, you can like it and subscribe there. Do it all. Let's get more people involved in this. All right, here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Let's do it.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
Okay, we're continuing now. One final segment with Representative Delana Johnson, who's the House Minority Leader. And I wanted to give her I want to give her the floor here for the final segment of the show. What should we as constituents, as citizens, be paying attention to? What's important coming up in the next couple weeks here of the session? And most importantly, what can we do to help in your mind as a minority leader? What's the minority going to be working on that we can kind of help out with? Give us a report here on this.
So first of all, I just want to start out by saying that we have a phenomenal Republican caucus. We're very accomplished and educated and hard workers. And I can't say enough about how well the caucus really does and how much they work. I mean, they really know what's going on. I know a lot of times minorities, they run off and take long lunches and things like that. And you don't see that out of this caucus. So, I mean, that's just for starters. But we have, I don't know what's going to happen exactly with the gas line. we stand ready, and I think Alaskans should stand ready to be positive on that. But we do need to know what the numbers are. I think we have a tremendous opportunity with Trump in the White House that we don't want to lose. And I'm in it. If anything, from the State of the Union last night, we should realize that we have opportunity. And I believe one of the statements that Trump made last night is that when people look to the United States for courage, if they're looking for courage, they're not going to Russia. They're not when they're looking for help, they're not going elsewhere. The United States is still that beacon, and Trump is, uniquely focused on Alaska, and we are uniquely positioned for resources. So don't let our crisis talk in the legislature stop the opportunity that we have. And I think that's one of my huge concerns, is that we all need to change our messaging. And I'm not saying be Pollyanna, because that's so far from how I operate. But if you can't see that Alaska is still of the best place in the world to live, Alaska is the best place in our country to be. And it's still the best place to have your opportunity and raise your children. And if we're going to fall victim to just talking about how we're in crisis mode all the time, and we don't have this and we don't have that, I mean, that's a terrible thing to put on our kids. And I feel so strongly about that. And so I'm trying to figure out how to say it without, like I said, being Pollyanna, because there is problems and we need to address the problems. But you know what? We have the capability to address the problems. We don't have a lot of money. We don't have, money like we did at one time, but we have money. I like to say we're like a middle-class family. We have to prioritize, and we have to decide what it is that drives us and what drives us to the future. We know the money doesn't equal outcomes. We can see that in education. We can see this in a lot of ways. If you're going to look for innovation, you're going to look for a variety of things. Money isn't necessarily what's going to drive that. So I do think we as a legislature need to be transparent, and we need to show, it's not, we have to be in crisis mode and all these terrible things are happening, so we have to take the PFD. We need to be transparent about our budgets. We need to be transparent about what the money we are spending, and we need to be able to stand up and say some, sometimes the hard things, but also even if you have to say the hard thing, you can do it with a sense of optimism. And I really feel strongly about that. And so for the minority, and again, the minority is the word. My goal in this legislature is first, do no harm. If we as a minority can keep bad things from happening, that is as much as we can, in some ways, try to do. And that sounds like a small thing, but it's not. It's like when the legislature's in session, et cetera. You got to be careful. So we are the backstop holding back. Just who knows? If you saw the number of tax bills that I've seen, you might have a little bit more sense of what I'm talking about. Anyway, yeah. So
like a holding action. That's all you're doing is holding back the tide. I think that there is a balancing act between running around like Chicken Little and screaming the sky is falling, but also acknowledging that we are in crisis, right? We are facing a fiscal crunch, and we cannot continue to do business the way that we've always done it. And I think that's the turning point. That's where we have to really look at that and say, we have to be the adults and talk about that there is a fiscal crisis, a fiscal crunch. But yeah, we can't be negative Nelly, but at the same time, we can't just keep going la 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 la. We'll keep doing what we're doing. And that's the difference. So how do we walk that line? How do we as citizens, in your mind, walk that line?
Well, I think what you're doing on your show, talking about, just a variety of things and our funding sources and having different voices, I think that's really helpful. I also think, maybe, so I've watched this, money comes in waves, policy comes in waves over time, over the last number of years. And so, Alaska's been running the structural deficit for a while, but, we've been saved by COVID. We've been saved by some of the big spending bills that are out there, some of the AR, the different variety of spending bills that have came through. So at one point, I think our oil prices were, they went negative, and then we get saved by, the invasion of Ukraine. So while we don't like to say that we're, want those things to happen, that's one of the things that's caused us to have this up and down piece, but in our budget, but also this avoidance of actually having to deal with reality, because every time it gets to the point where we're having to deal with reality, along comes something that allows us not to have to do that. And so we're at that right now. We are scooping money out of every little fund right now, and trying to fill up the budget, not take the next action. Is it a tax? Boy, I don't know. I would like to see. The governor has a fiscal plan. The one thing he didn't have, and that is some budget reductions. We do have to look at every piece of it. We can't just add without some reductions.
We got just over 3 minutes here, but shouldn't all of this start with a spending cap? I mean, really, we've talked about a sales tax or an income tax or a reduction or anything. Shouldn't it all start with some kind of spending cap that has teeth that says we can't grow beyond X, because government's nature is to grow. And without those, whatever we put on will just be consumed no matter what, unless there's some kind of spending cap.
Absolutely. And I mean, in absence of a spending cap, and I think the governor's plan just talks about a 1% statutory increase. I mean, that's not too much of a spending cap. It's something over time. I mean, if we could actually stick to that, that would be great. I would say in absence of a spending cap, the permanent fund dividend is the absolute best thing that we have, is the fact that the public and the public's still paying attention to not spending every dime that we have in the dividend. So yes, the spending cap is huge. Getting some kind of legislation like that in absence of this, keeping the dividend as high as possible.
Yeah, I mean, a true spending cap would be a full PFD. That would have restricted them from being able to spend it. Unfortunately, here's where we sit with legislators and senators saying, look at all the things we could spend this $635 million on, which would have been the $1,000 PFD. Look at what we could spend these things on, all these great programs. We could do it. We just need this money to be able to spend it. And of course, that's where we're at. And what's eventually going to happen is that they're going to spend the PFD down. And then when they're out of that money, we'll have a tax because they just can't control themselves. And that's the problem. Final thoughts here, Delana, down to 60 seconds here.
So I just want to point out that this caucus has more business owners in it than I've ever served with before, which is tremendous to me. And so it's been good to work with people, business-minded people, and I think building those people and moving forward is extremely valuable. And I had a great closing statement, and I'm lost it right now, but it's going to come back to me. But there's good things. There's good things ahead for Alaska. There's no question about that for me.
Well, if we can get the adults in the room to talk, I think there's great things in Alaska. If we keep doing things the way that we've been doing it, it's going to be some tough times. And I think that's the thing. It needs to change. Delana Johnson, thank you so much for coming on board and joining us. We appreciate it. Thanks for coming in. Hold the line for just a second here. Folks, we got more coming up tomorrow. Former Representative Ben Carpenter will be joining us in hour 2, working on somebody for hour 1. And then, of course, Friday is Firearms Friday. We'll see you then. All right, Delana, did you remember your thing? Final thoughts here? Anything else you could think of?
No, but I mean, I've said enough. I think that we will soldier on, and we will find our way through this, and we are not, we can't lose our opportunity. Maybe we can name the gas line the Trump line, and that would give us maybe we need some national exposure that would get some interest there.
Well, it'll be interesting. I am a little disappointed he didn't mention it last night in the speech, but we'll see what happens with this. I mean, they were supposed to deliver the price tag 2 months ago. And
yes.
We'll see what happens. But as I said, I am hopeful but not optimistic at this point. All right, Delana, thank you so much for coming on board. We appreciate you joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, folks, we got more coming up tomorrow. The Michael Duke Show. Common Sense Radio. We'll see you then.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.